Alright, what is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer, coming at you right after a Saturday day card. UFC Saudi Arabia, Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. We're going to get into that whole card, we're going to recap it, awesome knockouts, awesome fights. First, beer we're sipping on. We got a Guinness. It's St. Bridget's Day, St. Bridget's Feast, whatever it is. We love it, we love it. Alright, so yeah, this card, I said it on Wednesday when we dropped the preview show, this card's an absolute striker's delight, and it did not disappoint. I started off a little bit slow, but it really picked up. We're going to kick things off, though, today with the main event. Israel Adesanya, he's in his first non-title fight in over 6 years, taking on Nasruddin Imavov, who's looking to get to his first title fight ever. Fun-ass fight, round one. Izzy's looking good. He's slipping. He's countering, outstriking Imavov, making him miss. Just looking great. Round two, Imavov comes out and real quick lands an overhand right when he puts Izzy on the back foot. I said that's what he needed to do to get this win. Put him on the back foot, and he does it. Drops him. Finishes him with ground and pound. Izzy was pissed about the finish, but what can you do? He's not defending himself. He's getting beat up. Imavov looked amazing. He could not have done any better in this spot than he did. He showed some adversity, bounced back from it, and just gets the finish of a former champ. He solidified that he's in the top four at the middleweight division. Right now, it is kind of clogged up, but he's given himself a very clear path on how to get to the title picture at this time. So Imavov, the only guy he's lost to in the top five is Sean Strickland. Ahead of him, we have Strickland taking on Duplessis in a rematch. That's happening next week for the championship. And then Dana White's already come out and said that Khamzat Chimaev is going to be challenging the winner of that for the title. So where's that leave Imavov? Because he's better than everybody below him. By beating Israel Adesanya, he puts a gap between him and everyone below that. So what's next for him? Well, he's going to have to take on the loser of Dricus versus Sean Strickland. And then he beats them, he gets the title shot. But that works out really well for him. Because if Strickland loses, he takes him on in a rematch. And if he can get that fight back, then he's beat every top contender, and he hasn't lost to anybody that he hasn't beat. Probably can't hear me very well this whole episode till now. Oh well, we'll figure it out. And then after he beats Strickland or Duplessis, if he can get past either of them, then he gets the Chimaev, or he gets the Duplessis, or he gets the Strickland. He's going to fight two of the three guys that are ahead of him to get that title. But yeah, he couldn't have capitalized any better here. This was a perfect performance by him. It was looking rough at the beginning. I actually tweeted out while the show was going on. I was like, this could be a long night for Imavov. He might not be on that level of Israel Adesanya yet. And then, sure enough, Imavov, that overhand right just cracks him. And we haven't seen him with that kind of knockout power. He's usually decisioning guys, beating him up on the feet, but not dropping him, not knocking him out. So, he looked good, gets the finish. Only a few guys have finished Izzy, especially with strikes, so shout out to him. And with Izzy, if the guy retires, the guy retires. The chin's cracked. He's one of the best strikers there is, but when that chin cracks, there's nothing you can do about it. You can be bulletproof as you want. You can slip out of 99% of the strikes, but that one strike that catches you is the one that puts you in because you just don't have that defense anymore. And that's where Izzy's at this point. We're coming at you hot. We're giving you hot takes. Izzy needs to retire. We don't want to see him be a Jim Miller. We don't want to see him be a Clay Guida kind of guy that's just sticking around. Or God forbid a Tony Ferguson where he just goes on a crazy losing streak. We want to see him go out on top. They say this guy, he was the second best middleweight of all time behind Anderson Silva. And he aged out of his prime, lost a couple fights, sailed off into the sunset. We don't want to see him go out on a 5-fight lose streak or 5 of 6 fights, that kind of thing. And I don't know who he can beat in the top right now. I don't know who there is that he could beat at 185 in the top 10. You look towards the top 15, a Chris Curtis fight would be cool. He would beat Chris Curtis probably, but Curtis could drop him too. There's just, with that chin being compromised, he's not going to beat a wrestler at this point. He's not athletic enough, I don't think. He's just lost that edge. He's not going to be able to defend takedowns. And with the chin being cracked, I just don't see anyone he can beat with that style that he has. You got to have a good chin to be a kickboxer in the UFC. unless you're MVP who can just move in and out of shots, which we're going to move on to MVP next. He took on Shara Bullet Magomedov. Shara Bullet, tons of hype around him. Comes into this fight as a 2-1 favorite, minus 210, minus 220, depending on where you're looking at the odds. And MVP goes out there and just styles on the dude. He's doing what he does against every striker you match him up against. Leaning in, leaning out, ducking, dodging, weaving, diving in, overhand right from far, far away, and then he'll just push you because you're off balance and he's not. He's such a puzzle to solve. And Shara Bullet couldn't solve it. Shara Bullet looked good in round 3. He was really coming forward, really being aggressive, but he was going balls to the wall because he knew he lost rounds 1 and 2. I think Bullet landed 5 headshots in the first 2 rounds. I mean, it's just he wasn't able to get anything done with MVP. His style is he's just such an enigma, such a challenge to get around. I don't know how else to say it. He's weird. He's funky, and I freaking love it. Union Jack MVP. And a lot of people online on X, they were saying fraud checked Magomedov. He's been fraud checked. He's not the guy we thought he is. And I've been saying that before this fight, no doubt. I've been saying this guy's not as good as what the UFC's hyping him up as, not as good as what these other people are saying he is. He's not to that level of fighter. He's a fun fighter. He's like a Kevin Holland at 185. He's just a fun striker, but you put him up against MVP, especially when he's coming in there saying he's not going to wrestle. It's not going to be a good time for him. He still probably beats 9 out of every 10 strikers in his weight class, but just that MVP guy, he's not going to get past that. So keep your head up, Magomedov. I'm not a big fan of you, but you didn't look terrible. You went after it. Nobody can figure out this MVP puzzle on the feet. The only way you beat the guy is to take him down. And as for what's next for MVP, just keep giving him fun fights, 170 or 185, whatever you got there. Give him your Carlos Paredes. You can't give him an Imavov because Imavov is where he is, and him and Izzy are friends. But you give him a Carlos Paredes, you give him a Joe Pfeiffer, you give him these guys that are just fun strikers, that are fun fighters. Make it look good. But yeah, he's not going for the title. He's not going to win the title. He's older. He knows that, but he's getting the money fights. He's going to be the 3rd fight on a pay-per-view, 3rd fight on a card like this, or a co-main on a card like this. Big deal fight nights. He's a name. He draws eyes. MVP doing what the UFC brought him in to do. All right, and then we had Sergey Pavlovich. He outpointed Jairzinho Rozenstruik in a pretty boring decision. There were moments where Pavlovich really rocked Rozenstruik, had him wobbled, had him dropped, just didn't capitalize, would take him down and do nothing with the top control. These guys have trained together. We've seen this in a Pavlovich fight before. If he fights a guy he's trained with, he just doesn't go after it. He doesn't have that urgency, and it's boring. If he's going to fight that way, tell the UFC so they don't book you with these guys, because that could have been a fun fight with Rozenstruik and Pavlovich, 2 big, heavy-handed strikers. Instead, they go out there and they look at each other for a majority of the 15 minutes. And I really don't know I'm not even going to get into Rozenstruik. The guy is just weird. He'll beat some people. He'll beat like 7, 8 below. He won't beat anyone above that. Pavlovich, I don't know what happened to him. Dude was on a 5-fight win. Burps. Yeah, you know what it is. Pavlovich, though, 5-fight win streak, all by a first-round knockout. Goes into the interim championship fight against Tom Aspinall. Gets starched. Had Aspinall wobbled at the beginning of that fight before Aspinall eventually came back and gets the knockout in round 1. Since then, had a boring decision loss where he just got smoked by Volkov. And then this fight, boring decision loss to Rozenstruik. This dude's lost his fire. He's lost his edge. He's done at the top level of heavyweight. He might have got the win here, but this was a huge loss for Pavlovich as far as the eye test, how you looked. You looked terrible in your last outing against Pavlovich, or against Volkov, and now you look like just a shell of yourself against Rozenstruik. You're done. You're done at the top. You'll be a heavyweight from now on. Heavyweight that doesn't go for it. So that's where he's at, and is what it is. It's a shame to see, but I noticed a lot of people talking about his Aspinall fight. They said, ever since he stepped in on short notice to take on Tom Aspinall for the interim championship, he just hasn't been the same. Sergey Pavlovich did not step in on short notice for that fight. Sergey Pavlovich was training to be the backup fighter for Jones versus Stipe Miocic, and that fight got canceled about 10 days before. So in steps Pavlovich, promoted, already planning to be the backup if anything happened. So he knew he could have fought. In camp, he's ready to go. Tom Aspinall hops up off the couch, gets his big old 265-pound ass off the couch, and comes out there and knocks him out on short notice. Pavlovich, the only thing short notice about that fight was the opponent. At heavyweight, you don't need to worry about what your opponent's going to do. Do what you're going to do. Get the fucking knockout, especially if you're a Pavlovich, just a marauder. So that's one thing that's been bugging me, hearing everybody say in the media that this guy stepped in on short notice against Aspinall. I'll give him credit for that. No, Aspinall stepped in on short notice against him. That's what makes it so amazing what Aspinall's been able to do. All right, got that off my chest. Woo! Moving on to two of my favorite fighters. Vinicius Oliveira, look dog. He picked up a unanimous decision victory over Said Nurmagomedov. Fun-ass fight in this one. Nurmagomedov comes out early. He's unpredictable. He's throwing spinning attacks. It's really got Oliveira off his guard. Doesn't know what to do. Oliveira's kind of just flustered in round one. I think Nurmagomedov takes round one, but we go to round two, and Oliveira starts working the body. You can tell Nurmagomedov's getting tired. His ribs are hurting him. He's holding him, and he's just outworking him. Round two, clearly Oliveira just doing more damage, doing more volume. He gets it. No problem. Round three, both guys are gassed, but Oliveira's smiling, having fun, throwing spinning attacks, pretending he's Said Nurmagomedov. Spinning back kick, spinning out, spinning back kick, spinning back fists. He's just doing it all. Having a good time, out voluming the shit out of Nurmagomedov, still working the body, and Nurmagomedov's just absolutely done at this point. So, yeah, Vinicius Oliveira, when it goes to the judges' scorecards, all three see it 29-28 for the unanimous decision victory. Awesome win. 5 straight wins for Vinicius Oliveira. Look dog, get him a top 15 matchup. He's been looking amazing. He's coming off a nasty KO over Bernardo Sapage. Easy decision victory over Ricky Simone, and then he dominates Said Nurmagomedov in rounds 2 and 3 the way he did. Get him a top 15, top 10 matchup. He's fun as hell. What do we got to lose? And we need some fresh blood at bantamweight anyways. We need to start phasing some of these guys out. And then in the main card opener, we had Fares Ziam. He took on Mike Davis. Beast Boy, he had some moments, but you could tell ring rust was really a problem. He hasn't fought in about a year and a half almost. And Ziam, he's riding high. He has a nasty knockout over Matt Frevola in his last time out in his home country of France. Just beautiful first round knockout in that one from the clinch. This fight, it's a little different. On the feet, it's pretty even. Ziam really splits Davis up real bad in round 2 at the beginning. But then it goes to the ground, and Davis has this nasty calf splicer just locked up for about 45 seconds, minute and a half. It was a long time to have it, and it looked like Ziam's leg was just mangled. It was bent. I mean, the foot was all the way up at the hip. Couldn't get it, so he gives it up. They're slippery. They're covered in blood. Davis is bleeding everywhere, and Ziam's just really winning every exchange. Davis would have moments, but Ziam would make sure when the exchange ended, you knew that Ziam was the one that won that exchange. Round 3, it's more of the same with Ziam controlling, Ziam winning the exchanges, Ziam winning the moments. At the end of the round, though, Davis gets top control and really cuts Ziam up bad. He splits him. They're both just bleeding like crazy. In the end, Ziam gets the unanimous decision victory over Beast Boy, rolls over him. Beast Boy still looks good. You can see that there's skill there, but that ring rust, his timing was off. He didn't look like he had that rhythm in that. All right, and that was the main card. So on the prelims, we had 2 pretty awesome first-round knockouts. First, we had Shamil Gazib, just a straight right to Thomas Peterson. One-shot knockout in round 1. Finishes him, no problem. Gets back on the gets back to his winning ways after his quit loss to Jairzinho Rosenstrike. And then Terrence McKinney, he made quick work of Damir Hadzovic. Just goes out there and mollywops him from bell to bell, pillar to post, beats him up, beats him bad, and gets the finish by TKO with ground and pound. Bogdan Grad goes out there, has a tough round one against Lucas Alexander. Looks like he might get knocked out. He's getting cracked on the feet. But round two, he gets a not nasty, just a slick takedown, moves straight to mount, and finishes Lucas Alexander with ground and pound. Alexander missed weight by 2.5 pounds in this one, and you could tell he just blew his load in the first round and had no energy. So Grad recognized that, picks up a TKO victory in his UFC debut. So that's what we had for the finishes. And then we also had Jasmine Jasudavicius. She picked up a unanimous decision win over former bantamweight title challenger Mayra Bueno Silva, and she dominated this fight. Her wrestling, her top control, it was the story of the fight. She just didn't give Bueno Silva a chance. Bueno Silva, ever since she lost to Raquel Pennington, ever since she fought Raquel Pennington, not just after the loss, before that, she's looked terrible. She's a shell of herself. She was a favorite to be the champion at bantamweight at the end of last year when the year started. And now she's coming into fights against unranked Jasmine Jasudavicius, and she's an underdog. That should be all you need to know about what's going on with Mayra Bueno Silva. And then finally, Jamal Pogues. He got absolutely robbed by the judges in his fight against Amdi Abdel Wahab. The fight sucked ass, but round one, Pogues took it. Abdel Wahab, he had some takedowns, but it didn't amount to much. No damage was done. Pogues dominating on the feet. Round two, Pogues did better on the feet. Abdel Wahab didn't even shoot a takedown. Round three, more of the same. Pogues just looks like the better fighter. Abdel Wahab's not landing any strikes, not doing anything. Somehow the judges, one sees it 30-27, the correct way this fight was to be judged. Maybe 29-28, but there was no justification for anything below that because Pogues could not have lost 2 rounds in this. It was just horrible judging. That was the end of his contract too, so he's hoping UFC brings him back. But yeah, he put a video out. He said, fuck Hamdi. Fuck that. Fuck it all. What do we do? So where do we go from there? That's what we got for the UFC Saudi Arabia card. What else is going on in UFC? A lot. Bryce Mitchell. My God. My God, his God, your God, everyone's God. Let's get divisive, he said. Makes a podcast earlier last week called Ark Insanity, and he goes on the podcast, he says, Hitler was probably a pretty good guy before he started doing meth. I'd like to go fishing with a guy like that. All he was trying to do is defend his country, get the greedy Jews out of there. They're queering up his country. That sort of thing. Yeah, just trying to offend just about everybody he can. I don't know why. Bryce Mitchell's an idiot. I don't think he should be punished. I want to say that first. All for free speech, I love the UFC's like, you are contractors, you don't represent us. We represent you type of thing. So that's where the UFC's at with that. They're not going to punish him. But Bryce Mitchell, as a person, you're the dumbest person I think I've ever heard talk. I mean, this is the same guy that says he doesn't believe in seatbelts. He wants to be able to tuck and roll if something's coming at him or if his car's going off-road. He wants to be able to tuck and roll. You don't have fucking instincts or the reaction time to do that kind of thing, even as a professional fighter, dipshit. World's flat, just guy's got a lot going on in his head that's all wrong. So Bryce Mitchell versus Alex Pereira next. That's what we're looking for. He's earned it. He has earned this fight with Poatan. Give him that. Conor McGregor also had a pretty race-driven rant about Khabib Nurmagomedov where he said the N-word several times. It wasn't in a racial way towards African Americans. He was more so trying to talk shit to Khabib, but he shouldn't be using those words. Some people are fired up. Other people are like, it's Conor. I'm at the point where it's like nobody's going to do anything about Conor, so it's Conor. But yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. But in the Bryce Mitchell thing, you shouldn't be blaming entire groups of people for problems that are caused in other countries or in your country or anywhere. It's not one group of people. There's bad people in every race, every religion, every ethnicity. There's bad people all around. So what are we doing, Bryce? The Jews, like the easiest target. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestine. I'm has nothing to do with me. But to sit there and justify something for Hitler, justify him as a good guy, say the Jews were queering up Germany. What are we fucking talking about, dude? if this is a bit, you're a bigger heel than Colby Covington. Congratulations. UFC is going to give you another guy that's going to do the same thing that Josh Emmett did to you. So have fun with that, I guess. Let him rematch to Poirier 20 times in a row. Who knows? Maybe bump him up to 170, Carlos Praetus. Get him a good matchup. UFC isn't going to fine anyone. They're not going to suspend you. But what they can do is they can punish you with really unfavorable matchups. And that's what I think should happen to Bryce Mitchell again. Let someone do what Josh Emmett did to him. Because this is unforgivable. You can't say this. It's just spewing hate. It's trying to cause divisiveness. And anybody that can get behind him and say, well, he's just talking about someone that died 80 or 90 years ago. Fuck you. What? Fuck you. He's just talking. Most deplorable man in history. I'm free speech, but come on, man. The one guy that you don't defend is probably Hitler. I can't think of anybody that's done anything worse than Hitler. And I have a pretty skewed view on reality where I'm looking at different, this person took out 50% of this population even though it was only 3,000 people. This is a really fucked up person. No, Hitler, unanimously, across the world, aside from neo-Nazis, I think everybody would say Hitler is the most evil being to ever live. Maybe, second is Genghis Khan. These people of just lore. These people of mythology. I don't know. Absolute mess. So that's what we've got. A bunch of UFC fighters and former UFC fighters being racist, being xenophobic, whatever. UFC 312 is next week, though. We got Duplessis. He's taking on Strickland in a rematch for the middleweight championship. And there's not just one title fight, there's two. And thank God, because this card sucks without it. We got Zhang Wei Li taking on Tatiana Suarez for the strawweight title. That's coming up next weekend. UFC 312 coming at us from Australia. I can't wait. I'm going to have a card for you coming out Wednesday. Previewing that, giving you picks. We're going to get to it all. But that's what happened at UFC Saudi Arabia. That's all I got for you here on Blood and Beer. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to check me out on Twitter, Blood Beer Matt. That's the official Twitter for this page. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get alerts, turn your alerts on, whatever it is to support me. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in.